Elvia Cortés. Elvia Cortés Hill was a 53-year-old woman who lived in a small rural area called Palestina in the town of Simijaca in Boyacá, Colombia. It was about 134 kilometers from Bogotá. She lived there with her husband, Salomon Pachon. Elvia was the mother of 4 children, but by that time all of them were already adults. Elvia and her husband were simple farmers. They worked every day on their small farm, taking care of animals and doing different farm tasks to earn money. Their life was quiet and simple. They were not rich, and they did not live a public or famous life. They were just a normal family trying to live honestly. But everything changed on the morning of May 15, 2000. At about 4 a.m., 4 men wearing masks suddenly broke into their house. They were armed and shouting orders. Elvia and her husband were shocked and confused. The men tied them up and covered their mouths so they could not speak. The criminals kept asking the same question: "Where is the money?" Elvia and her husband told them they did not have any money. They explained they were only farmers. But the criminals did not believe them. They kept threatening them and demanded money. When the couple continued saying they had no money, the criminals did something terrible. They forced Elvia to sit in a chair. Then they put a strange device around her neck. It looked like a thick ring made from a plastic pipe. They locked it tightly so she could not remove it. After they finished, they told the couple the truth. The device was a bomb. They said the bomb would explode if they did not receive 15 million Colombian pesos. The couple had until 3 p.m. the same day to pay the money. The criminals left a bag with a cassette tape that had instructions, and then the 4 men escaped. Before leaving, they gave a serious warning. They said if the family contacted the police, they would detonate the bomb. Elvia and her husband were terrified. They did not know what to do. Finally, they asked a friend for help. The friend quickly contacted the authorities. The police decided to move Elvia to the nearby town of Chiquinquirá, where there was more space to safely try to remove the bomb. The area was closed off, and people stayed about 50 meters away. At 8:30 a.m., the bomb removal operation began. The man leading the operation was Subintendent Jairo Lopez, a 28-year-old police officer who had experience with explosives. Before starting, Jairo gave Elvia medicine to calm her because she needed to stay completely still. He carefully began cutting the pipe around her neck while other officers poured water on the device to keep it cool and prevent heat. The process was slow and very stressful. Around 10 a.m., Jairo announced that he had removed part of the bomb. People nearby began to feel hopeful. Police officers, soldiers, and Elvia's family encouraged her and told her everything would be okay. At 12 p.m., Jairo said that 70% of the bomb had been removed. Everyone believed the worst was almost over. A commander named Fabio Roa hugged Elvia and told her she was very brave. Then he stepped away. Only 10 seconds later, the bomb exploded. The explosion was devastating. Elvia died instantly. The blast was so powerful that she lost her head and part of her shoulders. Subintendent Jairo Lopez lost his left arm and was badly injured. Several soldiers nearby were also seriously hurt. They were rushed by helicopter to a military hospital in Bogotá. Later that afternoon, doctors announced that Jairo Lopez had died from heavy blood loss. Soon after, investigators began searching for the criminals. 10 days later, police arrested José Miguel Suarez, a man who actually worked on Elvia's farm and knew the family well. He had experience with explosives from working in a mine, and investigators found materials used to make bombs in his home. In 2002, a court sentenced him to 32 years in prison for Elvia's murder, terrorism, and other crimes. However, he always claimed he was innocent. Authorities believed he was part of a criminal group called Los Conejos. Despite investigations, the other men involved in the attack were never clearly identified. Even today, many questions about the crime remain unanswered. Emma Amit. Last image of Emma Amit in Palawan, Philippines on February 4, 2026, eating Zosimus aeneus, or devil crab. Emma Amit was a 51-year-old food vlogger from Puerto Princesa in Palawan, Philippines. She often made simple videos about local seafood and daily life near the sea. On February 4th, 2026, Emma went to a mangrove forest with some friends to collect crabs, snails, and other seafood. She filmed the trip and later cooked the food in coconut milk for a video. During the meal, Emma ate a crab that was later believed to be a poisonous devil crab. The next day, she suddenly became very sick and started having strong body shakes. Her family rushed her to a clinic and then to a hospital as her condition got worse. Despite treatment, she died on February 6. Local officials later found the bright shells of the crab at her home and started an investigation. They warned people not to eat devil crabs, as these crabs are known to be very dangerous and have caused deaths before in the area. Kalief Browder. In Rikers Island, a man named Kalief Browder spent 3 years in jail without a trial, much of it in solitary confinement, for allegedly stealing a backpack. Kalief Browder was born on May 25, 1993, in the Bronx. He grew up in a large family. His biological mother struggled with drug addiction, so when he was born he was placed in the care of Child Protective Services. Later, he was adopted by a woman named Vanita Browder. She was known for helping many children and had raised more than 30 kids over the years, including her own children, adopted children, and foster children. Kalief grew up in a small brick house with his family. Life was not easy, but his family was close. People who knew him said he was a smart, friendly, and respectful boy. He did well in school and teachers believed he had a bright future. However, everything changed in May 2010 when he was 16 years old. One day, Kalief and a friend were walking in their neighborhood when police officers stopped them. A man had called the police and said his brother had been robbed by 2 young black men. The man claimed that Kalief was the person who robbed his brother. Kalief strongly denied this. He told the police that he did not rob anyone. When officers searched him, they did not find any stolen items. The accuser had said that a camera, money, a credit card, and an iPod were stolen, but none of these things were found on Kalief or his friend. The police still arrested Kalief. After his arrest, prosecutors charged him with robbery, assault, and theft. In New York at that time, 16-year-olds could be treated as adults in criminal cases. He was sent to Rikers Island, one of the largest and most violent jail complexes in New York City. His court case kept getting delayed again and again. Over time, Kalief had more than 30 court dates, but the trial never actually started. Because he could not afford bail, he had to stay in jail the entire time while waiting. In total, Kalief spent about 3 years at Rikers Island without ever being convicted of a crime. Life inside the jail was extremely hard for him. Kalief was young and had no gang connections, which made him an easy target for other inmates. He was often attacked and beaten. Videos later showed him being punched and kicked by several inmates while guards watched. Kalief also had problems with some correction officers. He said some guards were abusive and treated prisoners very badly. For much of his time in jail, Kalief was placed in solitary confinement. This meant he was locked alone in a small cell for about 23 hours a day. In total, he spent about 800 days in this kind of isolation. Being alone for so long had a very serious effect on his mental health. During his time in jail, prosecutors offered Kalief a deal. They told him he could go home if he pleaded guilty to the crime. If he accepted, he would be released because he had already spent years in jail. But Kalief refused. He said he would not admit to a crime he did not commit. Finally, after more than 3 years in jail, prosecutors announced that they did not have enough evidence to continue the case. The charges were dropped, and Kalief was released in 2013. Although he was free, the experience had deeply affected him. He had missed important years of his life, including school, family events, and holidays. He struggled with trauma, fear, and emotional pain from what he had gone through in jail. He worked to finish school and began speaking publicly about his story. He wanted people to understand how the justice system had failed him and many others. Kalief Browder died by suicide in 2015 at the age of 22. His story later became widely known and helped start important discussions about bail, prison conditions, and solitary confinement in the United States. Jeff Bush. In February 2013, a very strange and tragic event happened in Seffner, Florida. A 36-year-old man named Jeff Bush was sleeping in his bedroom when the ground suddenly collapsed under his house. A huge sinkhole opened directly beneath his room in the middle of the night. Jeff's brother, Jeremy Bush, was also inside the house. He heard Jeff screaming for help and quickly ran into the room. But when he got there, the floor, bed, and furniture were all gone. Jeff had fallen deep into the hole. Jeremy even jumped into the sinkhole and tried to dig through the dirt to save him, but the ground kept collapsing. Police pulled Jeremy out because it was too dangerous. Jeff Bush was never found, and his body was never recovered. The house was later destroyed because the ground was too unstable. The sinkhole later reopened 2 more times, reminding people of the frightening night Jeff disappeared forever. Rudy Eugene, Miami zombie incident. In May 2012, a very strange and scary event happened in Miami. The case later became known as the Miami zombie incident. It involved 2 men named Rudy Eugene and Ronald Popo. The event took place during the afternoon on May 26, 2012. Many people were outside enjoying the day. Near the MacArthur Causeway, something very shocking started to happen. Rudy Eugene, who was 31 years old, was walking around the area. At some point, he came across Ronald Popo, a 65-year-old homeless man who was sitting under an overpass. Popo was resting there quietly and was not bothering anyone. Without warning, Eugene suddenly attacked Popo. Witnesses later said the attack was very violent and strange. Eugene knocked Popo down and began beating him, but the situation became even worse. Eugene started biting Popo's face and body. People who saw this were shocked and scared. Some of them could not believe what they were seeing.
Tearing him to pieces with his mouth. So I told him, get off, it's like, and the guy just kept eating the other guy away, like ripping his skin. Stood his head up like that with a piece of flesh in his mouth and growled.
A man riding a bicycle passed by and noticed the attack. He quickly called the police and told them that something terrible was happening. When police arrived, they saw Eugene on top of Popo, still attacking him. Officers shouted at Eugene many times and told him to stop. However, Eugene did not listen or react to their orders. The police officer then tried to stop the attack. When Eugene still refused to move away from Popo, the officer fired his weapon. After that, Eugene finally stopped and died at the scene. Popo was still alive but badly injured. The attack caused terrible damage to his face. Emergency workers rushed him to Jackson Memorial Hospital. Doctors worked hard to save his life. He had to go through many surgeries and a long recovery. The story quickly spread across the United States and around the world. Many news channels reported the case because the attack seemed so unusual. At first, many people believed that Eugene might have been using a powerful drug called bath salts. This drug had been in the news at that time and was known to cause dangerous behavior in some cases. However, later tests on Eugene's body did not find bath salts. The only drug found in his system was marijuana. Because of this, the exact reason for Eugene's actions was never fully explained. Some people believed he may have had serious mental health problems. Others thought he might have been experiencing a severe mental breakdown, but no clear answer was ever confirmed. Dante Autullo, a 34-year-old man from Chicago, accidentally shot a nail into his own brain while working in his workshop. He didn't realize the nail had entered his skull and thought he had only been hit on the forehead. Even his fiancée, Gail Glenzer, thought it was just a small cut. Dante went about his day, doing chores and snow plowing. The next day, he began feeling very sick and finally agreed to go to the hospital. X-rays showed a 3.25-inch nail lodged deep in his brain, very close to the area that controls movement. Doctors performed a 2-hour surgery to carefully remove the nail. Part of his skull was replaced with a titanium mesh to protect him. After surgery, Dante was fine. He could move, talk, and remember everything. His fiancée called it a miracle. Kyota Hattori, the Joker. On October 31, 2021, people in Tokyo, Japan were celebrating Halloween. Many people wore costumes and went out to enjoy the night. The streets and trains were full of people going to parties and events. Among these crowds was a 24-year-old man named Kyota Hattori. He was dressed like the Joker. At around 8 p.m., Hattori boarded a train on the Keio line heading toward Shinjuku. The train was filled with passengers, many of them also wearing costumes. At first, Hattori sat quietly like a normal passenger. No one thought anything was wrong. Suddenly, Hattori stood up and attacked the man sitting next to him. First, he sprayed pesticide into the man's face. Then he pulled out a large knife and stabbed the man in the chest. People nearby screamed in shock. At first, some passengers thought it might be part of a Halloween joke. Hattori then ran into another train car that was full of people. He took out a plastic bottle and poured liquid around the train. The smell quickly made people realize it was lighter fluid. After pouring the liquid, Hattori lit a fire. Flames started inside the train, causing even more panic. Passengers began climbing out of the train through doors and windows to escape the fire and the attacker. During the chaos, witnesses noticed something strange about Hattori. He showed almost no emotion. His face looked calm the entire time. After people escaped and the fire spread, he simply sat down in the train car and lit a cigarette while waiting for the police. Hattori was arrested without resisting. One man was seriously injured from the stabbing, but later recovered. 17 other people had minor injuries from the attack and the fire. After his arrest, Hattori spoke openly with the police. He said he had been feeling very depressed. Earlier that year, he had lost his job and his girlfriend. He later learned that his ex-girlfriend had married someone else. This made him feel angry, lonely, and hopeless. Hattori told police that he had tried to take his own life before, but failed. He believed that the only way his life would end was if he received the death penalty. In Japan, this punishment usually requires that a person kill at least 2 people. Because of this, he planned the attack hoping it would lead to his execution. He also said he admired the Joker character and wanted to act like him during the attack. Hattori was examined by mental health experts for several months. They concluded that he understood what he was doing and had planned the attack in advance. In 2023, his trial began. His lawyers asked for a shorter sentence, but the court did not agree. Kyota Hattori was found guilty of multiple counts of attempted murder. He was sentenced to 23 years in prison. Although no one died, the event remains one of the most shocking Halloween incidents in Tokyo. The Berlin Aquarium explosion. On December 16, 2022, a strange and shocking accident happened in Berlin. Inside the lobby of the Radisson Collection Hotel stood a huge aquarium called the Aquadom. It was the largest freestanding cylindrical aquarium in the world. The tank was about 16 meters tall and held around 1 million liters of salt water. There was even an elevator that went up through the middle of the aquarium, so visitors could see the fish all around them. But early one cold morning, everything suddenly went wrong. Without warning, the aquarium burst open. A huge wave of water rushed through the hotel lobby like a small tsunami. Glass and other objects were pushed across the room. The powerful water even broke through the front of the building and flowed out onto the street. It was almost a miracle that no one died. Only 2 people were slightly injured. After the accident, experts tried to find out what caused the aquarium to break. They collected hundreds of pieces from the broken tank and studied them carefully. Some experts thought the material may have become weak over time. Others believed small cracks may have formed during repairs a few years earlier. In the end, investigators could not find one clear reason. Hana Kimura. Hana Kimura was a young Japanese professional wrestler. She became very well known, but her life ended in a very sad way after she was bullied online for a long time. Hana Kimura was born in Yokohama, Japan. Her mother was also a professional wrestler. When Hana was still a baby, her father left the family. Hana later said that her father was Indonesian, so she was half Indonesian and half Japanese. Because she looked different from many other children in Japan, she was sometimes bullied when she was young. Even though her childhood had some problems, Hana loved wrestling. She started training and competing when she was very young. By the time she was about 8 years old, she was already winning small competitions. As she grew older, she trained at a professional wrestling school and worked hard to improve. Over time, she became a successful wrestler and competed in many matches around the world. She also won several championships and became popular with many fans. In 2019, when she was 21 years old, Hana joined a popular Japanese reality TV show called Terrace House. The show had a simple idea. 6 young people lived together in one house while cameras filmed their daily lives. The show focused on their friendships, daily problems, and sometimes romance. At first, Hana acted confident and strong on the show. She often showed a bold personality, which matched her image as a wrestler. Some viewers did not like her behavior, and she began to receive negative comments online. The situation became much worse after an event that many people later called the costume incident. One day, Hana left one of her wrestling costumes in the washing machine. The costume was very important to her because she used it during matches. Another person on the show, named Kai Kimura, did not see the costume in the machine. He added his own clothes and started the wash. When the washing was finished, Hana's costume had shrunk and was badly damaged. Hana became very upset. She believed the costume was extremely important, almost like part of her career. During a scene on the show, she confronted Kai and angrily blamed him for ruining it. Kai apologized and promised that he would pay for the damage. However, many viewers felt that Hana's reaction was too strong. They believed Kai made an honest mistake. Soon after the episode aired, many people began attacking Hana on social media, especially on Twitter. They posted very cruel comments about her appearance and personality. Some people even told her that it would be better if she disappeared. The number of hateful messages quickly grew. Hundreds of people began sending insults and threats every day. Some users created many different accounts just to continue attacking her. Hana tried to respond by posting an apology online. Sadly, the bullying did not stop. The topic was brought up again on the TV show and in online videos. This caused another wave of criticism and anger from viewers. Many people said that Hana had learned nothing from the situation. The attacks on social media became even worse. Some of her posts showed that she was deeply hurt by the cyberbullying. She also shared photos that suggested she was harming her. It became clear that the constant hate was seriously affecting her mental health. On May 22nd, Hana posted a photo with her cat and wrote a goodbye message. She also left a message for her family, thanking them for giving birth to her and saying she was sorry. Shortly after that, Hana ended her life. She was only 22 years old. Artyom Sidorkin. A man thought that he had a tumor, but it turned out that there was a tree growing inside him. Russian doctors who were prepared to remove a suspected cancer tumor from 28-year-old Artyom Sidorkin instead discovered a 5-centimeter fir tree growing in his lung. Initially thought to be cancer due to symptoms like severe chest pain and coughing up blood, surgeons were stunned to find a small tree inside Sidorkin's lung. It is believed that he might have inhaled a seed, which then sprouted. In the summer of 1928, a very rich businessman named Alfred Loewenstein boarded his private airplane in England. At that time, he was one of the richest men in the world. Only 2 people were believed to have more money than him. He had built his fortune through banking, investments, and companies that produced electricity for many countries. Because of his success, many governments worked with him, but he also had many enemies in business. On the evening of July 4, 1928, Loewenstein arrived at Croydon Airport in England to take a flight home to Brussels, Belgium. The flight was supposed to be simple and routine. The weather was clear, and the pilot believed there would be no problems during the trip. Inside the aircraft were 6 people besides the pilot and mechanic. He sat in the passenger cabin with 4 of his workers. The pilot and mechanic were in the cockpit at the front of the plane. The plane took off shortly after 6 p.m. and climbed to about 4,000 feet. Soon they were flying over the English Channel between England and France. At the back of the cabin there was a small toilet room. Near it was an exterior door that could be used as an exit. During the flight, Loewenstein spent time writing notes. After a while, He got up and walked to the back of the plane to use the toilet. About 10 minutes passed. His valet, Fred Baxter, became worried. He went to the back of the plane and knocked on the toilet door. Thinking that his employer might be sick or in trouble, Baxter forced the door open, but the toilet was empty. The passengers were shocked. Somehow, the rich businessman had vanished in the middle of the flight. The pilot was informed, and instead of flying directly to the destination, he landed the plane on a beach near Dunkirk in France. Soldiers who were training nearby ran to the plane. When they arrived, the passengers had already stepped out of the aircraft. At first, the pilot avoided answering questions, but after some time, he finally admitted that Loewenstein had disappeared during the flight over the English Channel. About 2 weeks later, on July 19th, a fishing boat found a body in the water near the French coast. Doctors found many broken bones and a skull injury, showing that he had hit the water very hard while still alive. Investigators tested the airplane door. Many people believed that Loewenstein could not have opened the door by accident. Some believed he might have jumped on purpose, perhaps because of secret financial problems. Others suspected something darker, that the people on the plane may have pushed him out. There were also rumors that his marriage was unhappy and that his wife might benefit from his fortune after his death. In the end, no one was charged with any crime. The investigation was messy and incomplete, and the truth was never clearly discovered. Walter Williams. Walter Williams, a 78-year-old man from Lexington, Mississippi, was declared dead and taken to a funeral home. A coroner had checked him at his home and found no pulse. His family thought he had passed away. When workers at Porter & Sons Funeral Home were getting him ready for embalming, they saw him moving and kicking in the body bag. He started breathing again. The coroner said he had never seen anything like it in more than 20 years on the job. His nephew said he didn't know how long Walter would live, but he was happy he was alive for now. Daniel Rakowitz, Human Soup for the Homeless. Daniel Rakowitz was born on December 24, 1960. His early life was very difficult. When he was only 3 years old, his mother died from a heart attack in front of him while they were staying in a hotel in Paris. This was very traumatic for a young child. Only 3 months after her death, Daniel's father married Daniel's aunt, who was his mother's sister. When he was about 5 years old, he said he had visions of the 3 wise men from the Bible. He started believing that he had special powers and even told people that he was Jesus. Other children at school thought he was strange, and he was often bullied. His father was very strict and sent Daniel to psychiatric hospitals at a young age. Daniel was given medication to control his behavior. Because of these experiences, Daniel began to resent his father. He drank alcohol, used drugs, and smoked marijuana. Eventually, Daniel's father kicked him out of the house. After leaving home, Daniel joined the army for a short time. Later, when he was 22 years old, he married a 14-year-old girl. The marriage was abusive. Daniel later admitted that he treated her badly. At one point, he even tied her to a refrigerator and left her there all day while he went out. The marriage did not last long. When Daniel was about 25, he moved to New York City. He began spending time at Tompkins Square Park in Manhattan. During the 1980s, the park was known for having many homeless people, drug use, and crime. Daniel lived in a tent there and sold marijuana to make money. Daniel told people strange stories about having divine powers. He also dreamed of becoming a cult leader and even believed he would one day become the President of the United States. However, most people did not take him seriously and thought he was strange. Daniel also became known for killing animals, claiming they were sacrifices for his religion. Even though people thought he was odd, he sometimes cooked food and shared it with other homeless people. In 1989, Daniel moved into an apartment with a woman named Sylvia and her boyfriend. After they moved out, Daniel needed a new roommate. That is when he began living with a woman named Monica. Monica was originally from Switzerland and had come to New York to study dance. She worked at a bar to support herself while attending school. Monica and Daniel got along, but their relationship later became tense. Some reports say they had a short romantic relationship, but Monica ended it. Daniel became angry and jealous when Monica started bringing other men to the apartment. They argued often. Eventually, Monica found a way to remove Daniel from the apartment. When the lease ended, she signed a new lease in her own name and told Daniel he had to move out. Daniel became extremely angry about this. He told Sylvia that he planned to kill Monica, but she did not believe him. On August 19, 1989, Daniel murdered Monica in their apartment. He strangled her with an extension cord, stomped on her head, and stabbed her many times. After killing her, he cut her body into pieces. He tried to flush many of the body parts down the toilet and kept some of the bones in a storage unit. When Sylvia later visited the apartment, she found Monica's head in a pot on the stove. Daniel later admitted that he had boiled it. He also told people he had made soup from the remains and fed it to homeless people. Daniel bragged about the murder to several people, and eventually the police were informed. He was arrested in September 1989 and confessed to the crime. Even though he had confessed earlier, he pleaded not guilty. After hearing about his severe mental illness, the jury found him not guilty by reason of insanity. He was sent to a maximum security psychiatric hospital in New York, where he remains today. Michelle Go and Simon Marshall. Michelle Go was a young woman from Berkeley, California, born on December 29, 1981. She went to American High School in Fremont and later studied economics at UCLA, graduating in 2002. Michelle then earned an MBA from NYU in 2010. She worked in investment banking and consulting and spent time volunteering to help at-risk communities. Friends and family remember her as kind, smart, and full of life. She loved traveling, learning about new cultures, and helping others. On January 15, 2022, Michelle was in New York City at the Times Square, 42nd Street subway station. Around 9:40 a.m., a 61-year-old man named Simon Marshall pushed her onto the subway tracks. The attack was completely random, and Michelle had no interaction with him beforehand. Minutes earlier, Simon had approached another woman who sensed danger and stepped away safely. Unfortunately, Michelle did not have a chance to react. Simon has a history of mental illness and past criminal encounters, and he was found unfit to stand trial. In 1986, a very strange and frightening case happened in Massachusetts. A teenage boy named Daniel LaPlante secretly lived inside the walls of a family's home without them knowing. At first, the situation seemed creepy but not deadly. Sadly, after he was later released on bail, his crimes became much worse and ended in murder. Daniel LaPlante was born on May 15, 1970, in Townsend, Massachusetts. His childhood was very difficult. His parents divorced when he was young, and he mostly lived with his mother. He had problems in school because he had learning disabilities and trouble paying attention. Many classmates thought he was strange, and he was often bullied. Because of this, he became very isolated and spent most of his time alone. When Daniel was about 15 years old, he started committing small crimes. At first, he stole things. Later, he began breaking into houses in his neighborhood. He would move furniture around or leave random items inside people's homes. It seemed like he was playing games with the people who lived there. In December 1986, Daniel became obsessed with a 15-year-old girl named Tina Bowen. He called her and asked her out on a date. Tina agreed, but when she met him, she quickly realized he was not the person she expected. After the date, Daniel asked her to be his girlfriend, but she politely said no. Instead of accepting the rejection and moving on, Daniel began stalking Tina. Using his experience breaking into houses, he secretly entered the Bowen family home. Inside the house, he created small hidden spaces and tunnels in the walls and crawl spaces. These narrow passages allowed him to move around the house without being seen. For some time, the family noticed strange things happening. Food would disappear, objects would move, sometimes the television would change channels by itself. The family had no idea that Daniel was secretly living inside their home and watching them through small holes in the walls. Everything came to a frightening end on December 8, 1986. When Tina's father, Frank Bowen, came home, the house was in chaos. The radios and televisions were playing very loudly. While searching the house, Frank opened a closet door upstairs and suddenly came face to face with Daniel. Daniel looked very strange. His face was covered with messy paint, and he was holding a hatchet that belonged to the family. He ordered Frank to bring his daughters into a bedroom. Instead, Frank quickly pushed the girls into a room and blocked the door to protect them. Tina jumped out of a second-story window and ran to a neighbor's house to call the police. When officers arrived, they searched the house but could not find the intruder. Officers eventually found him hiding in a crawl space near the foundation. He was arrested and taken to a juvenile facility. However, Daniel was later released on bail in 1987. Soon after his release, he began stealing guns and looking for ammunition. His behavior quickly became more dangerous. On December 1st, 1987, Daniel broke into the home of Andrew and Priscilla Gustafson in Townsend. At first, the house was empty, but later Priscilla returned home with her 5-year-old son, William. Instead of leaving, Daniel attacked them. He tied Priscilla to the bed, assaulted her, and then shot her. After that, he drowned young William in a bathtub. Later that day, the couple's 7-year-old daughter, Abigail, came home from school. Daniel killed her as well. When Andrew Gustafson returned home later that evening, he found his wife dead and soon learned that both of his children had also been killed. After a short manhunt, he was finally found hiding in a dumpster and arrested. Investigators collected strong evidence that linked him to the murders, including stolen items, forensic evidence, and the gun used in the crime. Daniel LaPlante was later found guilty of 3 counts of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison. Many members of the victim's family strongly opposed any chance of his release. The case remains one of the most disturbing crimes in Massachusetts history, beginning with a boy secretly living inside a family's walls and ending in a tragic triple murder. Oxana Malaya. Oxana Malaya was a young girl from Ukraine who faced a very sad childhood. She was born on November 4, 1983, in a poor village. Her parents drank a lot and did not take care of her. One cold night, when Oxana was 3 years old, her parents left her outside the house. She was very scared and cold, so she followed the family dog, Nida, into the dog kennel. She stayed there for almost 5 years. During this time, Oxana lived with a pack of stray dogs. She copied their behavior and started acting like a dog. She crawled on all fours, barked, and slept on the floor. She also stopped speaking human language and communicated only with barks and growls. She survived by eating raw meat and scraps with the dogs. Oxana's unusual life went unnoticed for years. People only discovered her when a neighbor heard her barking. When authorities arrived, the dogs were very protective of her. She was then sent to a children's home where she received years of special care, therapy, and education. Oxana learned to walk upright and speak again, but her development remained slower than other children. Even as an adult, her abilities are similar to those of a 6-year-old. Today, Oxana lives in a special care home and spends most of her time with animals. She sometimes still behaves like a dog when she feels lonely, crawling on all fours. Her story shows how important childhood care and social interaction are for a person's development. Matthew de Grood, the college party murders. In April 2014, a terrible crime happened in the city of Calgary. What started as a normal college party ended in tragedy when 5 young people lost their lives. The person responsible was a 22-year-old university student named Matthew de Grood. Matthew was a student at the University of Calgary. People who knew him said he seemed like a normal young man. He studied at the university and planned to go to law school in the future. He also worked at a grocery store. From the outside, his life looked ordinary. However, in the weeks before the attack, people close to Matthew began to notice changes in his behavior. His family, friends, and classmates said he was acting very differently. He seemed strange and confused, and his personality had started to change quickly. Matthew also began posting unusual messages on social media. His posts became more and more strange. On the night of April 14, 2014, a group of students gathered at a house near the university. The party was meant to celebrate the end of the school year. Around 30 people were there. The atmosphere was calm and relaxed. Some people were talking, some were sitting around a fire. Matthew was invited to the party, so no one was surprised when he arrived. But soon after he got there, something terrible happened. At about 1:20 in the morning, Matthew went into the kitchen of the house and picked up a large knife. Without warning, he began attacking people at the party. Witnesses said he moved from person to person, stabbing them one by one. The attack was sudden and shocking. Many people did not understand what was happening until it was too late. 5 people were killed in the attack. 3 of them died at the house, and 2 others died later in the hospital. The attack became the worst mass killing in the history of Calgary. After the stabbings, Matthew ran away from the house on foot. A police dog helped officers track him down, and he was arrested about 40 minutes after the attack. During the investigation, police tried to understand why the attack happened. There had been no argument or fight before the stabbings. Matthew did not seem to have any problem with the victims. Tests also showed that he was not under the influence of drugs or alcohol. During the trial, doctors who studied Matthew said he was suffering from serious mental illness. According to doctors, Matthew believed strange and frightening things at the time of the attack. He later told doctors that he believed the world was ending that day. He said he thought evil creatures like vampires and werewolves were real and were coming after him. At one point, he believed one of the victims was a werewolf and that his life was in danger. In the end, the court found Matthew not criminally responsible for the deaths because of his mental illness. This decision meant he would not go to prison. He was sent to a secure psychiatric hospital where he would receive treatment. Years later, a review board allowed him to slowly begin supervised trips outside the hospital and limited visits into the community. Even today, the case is remembered as one of the most shocking crimes in Calgary's history, and the families of the victims continue to struggle with the loss of their loved ones. Erin Patterson, mushroom murderer. In July 2023, a woman named Erin Patterson invited her former in-laws to lunch at her home in Victoria, Australia. She said she wanted to repair her relationship with them and spend time together as a family. The guests trusted her and believed the lunch would be a kind and peaceful meeting. But the meal would soon turn into a terrible tragedy. Erin Patterson was born on September 30th, 1974, in Adelaide. Later, her family moved to Melbourne, where she grew up. People who knew her when she was young said she was quiet and kept to herself. As an adult, she worked different jobs, including training as an air traffic controller. She later worked with animals and spent time around people who cared for wildlife. In 2004, Erin met a man named Simon Patterson. They started dating and later got married in 2007. The couple had 2 children together, a son and a daughter. For some years, they traveled and lived in different places in Australia. Over time, their relationship became difficult and full of arguments. Eventually, they separated in 2015. Even though they were no longer together, they still tried to raise their children together and sometimes spent time as a family. Simon's parents, Don Patterson and Gail Patterson, stayed in contact with Erin because they wanted to keep a good relationship with their grandchildren. Other relatives, Ian Wilkinson and Heather Wilkinson, were also close to the family. On July 29, 2023, Erin invited all 4 of them to lunch at her home. She told them she had some serious medical news and wanted to talk with them about it. The guests believed her and agreed to come. For the meal, Erin prepared a dish called beef Wellington, which included mushrooms wrapped with beef and pastry. Each guest was given their own portion of the meal. The guests noticed that Erin ate from a different plate than they did, but they did not think much about it at the time. The 4 guests became very sick. They had strong stomach pain, vomiting, and diarrhea. Their condition quickly became worse, and they were taken to the hospital. Doctors soon realized that the symptoms looked like poisoning from deathcap mushroom, one of the most dangerous mushrooms in the world. Even a small amount can cause serious organ failure and death. Sadly, the poison was too strong for some of them. Gail Patterson and Heather Wilkinson both died on August 4, 2023. Don Patterson died the next day. Ian Wilkinson survived, but stayed in the hospital for many weeks while doctors treated him. Police began investigating the case. They found that Erin had searched online for death cap mushrooms and had visited places where they were known to grow. They also discovered that she had bought a food dehydrator, which can be used to dry mushrooms. Investigators also learned that Erin had lied about where the mushrooms came from. At first, she said she bought them at a grocery store. Later, she said they came from an Asian market. But no store in the area sold the type of mushrooms she described. Police also found that Erin had used a second phone and had reset it several times to erase information. This made investigators believe she was trying to hide evidence. Her trial began in April 2025 and lasted for several weeks. Many witnesses spoke in court, including the only survivor, Ian Wilkinson. In July 2025, the jury found Erin Patterson guilty. The court decided that she had planned the poisoning and gave her 3 life sentences for the murders and an additional sentence for the attempted murder of Ian Wilkinson. The case shocked many people because the victims trusted Erin as a family member. What seemed like a normal family lunch ended with 3 deaths and a crime that many people will never forget. Li Fuyan, a 30-year-old man from Yunnan, China, had been suffering for 4 years from very bad headaches, bad breath, and trouble breathing. He did not know the cause of his pain. Li remembered being stabbed in the lower right jaw by a robber 4 years earlier. At the time, he did not know that the knife blade had broken off and stayed inside his head. Over the years, he tried injections to ease the pain. Finally, Li went to Yuxi City People's Hospital, where doctors used imaging to see what was wrong. To their shock, they discovered a rusted knife blade about 10 centimeters, 4 inches long, lodged deep in his skull, just behind his throat. Amazingly, the blade had missed critical parts like the carotid artery and windpipe, which could have been fatal. Surgeons carefully removed the heavily corroded knife without breaking it. The operation was very delicate because the blade had passed between important structures. One doctor described the removal as a miracle. Li told reporters that he had no idea the knife had remained inside him all that time. The case was widely reported in Chinese media and discussed online. Medical experts said the knife had passed through natural spaces in the body, avoiding major organs by sheer luck. The Happy Land nightclub fire was one of the most tragic fires in the history of New York City. It happened in the Bronx on March 25, 1990, and 87 people lost their lives in only a few minutes. The Happy Land Social Club was a small nightclub on Southern Boulevard in the Bronx. It was not a fancy place, but it was very important to many people in the area. Many of the visitors were from the Latin community, especially people from Honduras. They came there to relax, dance, listen to music, and spend time with friends. On the night of the tragedy, many people were inside the club celebrating and dancing. One group was celebrating a 50th birthday party, and the place was full of music and laughter. Around 2:30 in the morning, a man named Julio Gonzalez arrived at the club. His ex-girlfriend, Lydia Feliciano, worked there. The two had been in a relationship for several years, but things had gone very badly between them. That night, Gonzalez tried to talk to Lydia and begged her to take him back. Lydia did not want to get back together. The argument between them became loud and angry. Eventually, a bouncer stepped in and forced Gonzalez to leave the club. Before leaving, Gonzalez shouted angrily that he would come back and shut the place down. Most people thought he was just drunk and upset, so they did not take his words seriously. Instead of going home, he walked to a nearby gas station. He found an empty container and asked the worker for a small amount of gasoline. He said his car had broken down nearby. After getting the gasoline, Gonzalez walked back to the nightclub. By this time, everyone inside was still dancing and enjoying the party. No one knew what was about to happen. Gonzalez poured the gasoline in the entrance area near the stairs. Then he lit matches and started a fire. The flames quickly spread through the entrance. Lydia saw the fire and began shouting to warn everyone, but the building filled with thick smoke very fast. Because there was only one narrow stairway, people rushed toward the exit at the same time. the smoke and heat became overwhelming. Many people could not escape in time. When firefighters arrived, they quickly put out the fire. Many victims were lying on the stairs and near the exit. Some had been overcome by smoke, while others were trapped in the crowd. In total, 87 people died that night. It became the deadliest fire in New York City in many years. Police arrested Julio Gonzalez the next morning at his apartment. The smell of gasoline was still strong in his room. He admitted to starting the fire. In 1991, Gonzalez was found guilty in court and given a very long prison sentence that added up to more than 4,000 years. He remained in prison until 2016, when he died from a heart attack. The Happy Land nightclub fire left the Bronx community in deep shock and sadness. Many families lost loved ones, friends, and neighbors. Even today, people still remember the victims of that tragic night. The Academy Maniacs. Artyom Sidorkin and Nikita Litkin were two young men from Irkutsk, Russia. Later they became known as the Academy Maniacs because of a series of violent attacks they carried out between late 2010 and early 2011. During this time they murdered 6 people. Both boys had difficult childhoods. Artyom Sidorkin was born on October 4, 1992. He grew up without a father. His mother raised him alone, and their relationship was not very healthy. Some people said his mother often filled him with anger and taught him to dislike others. In school, Artyom first had trouble with his studies and often behaved badly in class. Teachers found him difficult to manage. Later he improved for a while. He began getting better grades, especially in literature and English. He also became involved in music. Despite this improvement, many classmates still saw him as strange and different. Nikita Litkin was born on March 24, 1993. Like Artyom, he also grew up without a stable father figure. His father left when he was young and only came back occasionally. Because of this, Nikita often felt lonely and angry. His mother worked in a shoe store and tried to raise him on her own. When Nikita was young, he was a good student and behaved well in school. But things started to change when he got older. Other students bullied him and made fun of him. Over time, he became very quiet and closed off. He stopped talking to classmates and spent more time alone. His grades dropped and he began skipping school. Eventually, he was removed from school and failed in 2 different colleges he tried to attend. Nikita and Artyom became close friends as teenagers. They spent a lot of time together and shared similar interests. They formed a small punk rock band and wrote songs that often talked about violence. Both of them became very interested in famous serial killers and violent crimes. This obsession slowly grew stronger. Before the attack started, the 2 friends began planning how they would find victims. They walked around the same area for several days, watching people and looking for someone they thought would be easy to attack. Their first known victim was a 12-year-old boy named Daniil Semyonov. On December 1, 2010, the boy was riding his snow scooter near a hill. Artyom and Nikita attacked him from behind using a hammer and a baseball bat. The boy was badly injured and later died. At first, people thought his death was an accident. About 2 weeks later, on December 16th, the pair attacked a 69-year-old woman named Olga Pirog. Nothing was stolen from her, showing that robbery was not the motive. On January 1, 2011, the 2 attacked a homeless man who was sleeping near garbage bins. They beat him badly with hammers, and he later died in the hospital. His identity was never confirmed. On February 21st, they killed another man named Alexander Maximov, who was walking home after visiting his sister. The attack was extremely violent. On March 11th, the pair attacked a homeless man named Roman Fasulin near Artyom's apartment building. They shot him with an air pistol and then stabbed him. Their final victim was a 63-year-old homeless woman named Alevtina Kaidina on April 1, 2011. After killing her, the 2 filmed the body and behaved in a cruel and disturbing way. Their crimes finally came to light because of a mistake. Nikita had borrowed a video camera from his uncle and used it to record one of the attacks. When he returned the camera, he forgot to delete the video. His uncle found the recording and gave it to the police. After a long trial, Artyom received a life sentence in prison. Nikita was younger at the time of the crimes, so he was sentenced to 20 years in prison. In 2021, Nikita died in prison after taking his own life. Artyom remains in prison, where he will likely spend the rest of his life. Narumi Kurosaki. Narumi Kurosaki was a 21-year-old woman from Tokyo, Japan. She was known as a kind and friendly person. Many people said she was both quiet and social at the same time. She liked meeting people from different countries and learning about other cultures. Narumi studied at the University of Tsukuba in Japan. Later, she decided that she wanted to study abroad. At first, she was worried because studying in another country can be very expensive. She received a scholarship, which helped pay for her studies. Because of this, she moved to eastern France in 2016 to study the French language at a university there. For the first 6 months, everything in Narumi's life seemed to be going very well. She made many friends from different countries and enjoyed living in France. She was doing well in her classes and was happy with her new life. During this time, she also started dating a new boyfriend. Overall, she seemed happy and excited about her future. However, there was someone from her past who would soon return to her life. His name was Nicholas Zapata. Narumi first met Nicholas in 2014 while she was studying in Japan. Nicholas was from Chile and was working there as a teaching assistant. The two began dating and were very close for a short time, but their relationship did not last long and they broke up after only a few months. Even after the breakup, Nicholas did not fully disappear from Narumi's life. For some time they stopped talking, but later they began communicating again. While Narumi was living in France, she and Nicholas exchanged more than 1,000 online messages. Nicholas told her that he still had feelings for her. Eventually, Nicholas decided to travel to France. On December 4th, 2016, he met Narumi there. The two spent the day together. They visited a museum and later had dinner. After that, they went back to Narumi's university dormitory. This was the last time Narumi was ever seen. Later that night, several students in the dorm building said they heard loud screams and shouting coming from Narumi's room. However, no one called the police at the time. After that night, Narumi completely disappeared. No one could contact her on her phone, and her credit card also stopped being used. Soon after Narumi disappeared, Nicholas quickly left France and returned to Chile. On his way home, he visited a cousin in Spain. He also asked his cousin not to post anything about their meeting on social media. Meanwhile, police in France started investigating Narumi's disappearance. Authorities released Narumi's photo to the public and began searching for Nicholas as well. Security cameras showed Nicholas and Narumi entering her dorm building together. Later cameras showed Nicholas leaving the building alone. Police also found blood near the fire escape outside her room. Investigators discovered more suspicious actions. Nicholas had rented a car and driven to a forested area near the city. During this trip, he bought fuel and matches. Police searched the nearby forest and rivers for many days, but they could not find Narumi's body. Heavy winter snow made the search very difficult. Another person later told police that Nicholas had asked him to translate several sentences into Japanese. These sentences made it sound like Narumi was alive and traveling somewhere. Police believed Nicholas planned to send messages from Narumi's phone to make people think she was still alive. For several years, the case continued while Nicholas stayed in Chile. At first, the courts there refused to send him to France because they said there was not enough evidence. Finally, in 2020, Chile agreed to send Nicholas to France to face trial. Investigators believe he killed Narumi because he was jealous of her new relationship. Nicholas has always denied harming her and claims she was alive when he last saw her. Narumi Kurosaki has never been found. Her family still hopes that one day they will learn the truth about what happened to her.